Lawmakers were busy as all could be in the final few days of legislative session last week, and some of the bills they passed, of course, we've talked about the Safety Act and the changes to the Pretrial Fairness Act that eliminates cash bond at the beginning of January 1st. So still some unanswered questions there, especially how it's going to be impacting the lawsuit that state's attorneys have against the implementation of the measure. But there's other legislation that passed, including legislation dealing with electric vehicle manufacturer rebates. And this is something that in the state of Illinois, we very much have a focus from the governor's administration of getting 1 million EVs on the roadways by, I think, like 2030 or so. And to do that, it's going to take a lot. Not only is it just about, the EV tax credits they have for consumers, where they say ultimately if you buy an EV, an electric vehicle, you can get a $4,000 tax credit. And I've got documents of applications of people applying for, to get a $4,000 tax credit on an $80,000+ BMW electric vehicle. And some people may see that and say, if you could afford an $80,000 BMW electric vehicle, do you really need $4,000 in tax credits? What about electric motorcycles? They get a $1,500 tax credit. So those applications are being accepted and being reviewed, and then they will approve individuals for those EVs. But one element that is also part of the equation to get more electric vehicles is to foster a atmosphere in Illinois to have more EV tax credits. And in particular, this bill would do just that, a measure that ultimately passed both chambers in the final days of the legislative session. It would sweeten the pot, so to speak. Legislation approved Thursday would extend up to 30 years in payroll tax credits for those who work in Illinois under the Reimagining Electric Vehicles in Illinois Act, or the REV Illinois Act. And you have State Representative Mike Zaleski, who very much was part of this equation and putting these tax credits together. And he talked about how this is going to help propel Illinois to be a big player in EVs.
If we can build a hub in the Midwest to produce them and have enough people working on their production, we're going to be successful.
And part of that success includes having those tax credits available for manufacturers and those who make parts.
I think we have what it takes to lure these manufacturers here. We have access to cheap electricity, access to global markets, access to an educated workforce.
And Zaleski says that Illinois, with these measures, is very much going to be a leader in the EV industry.
We're certainly in the conversation every time one of these manufacturers looks to relocate, and I think we should be. And I think it's exciting that as the industry grows, Illinois will be at the spear's tip of trying to lure manufacturers here.
So that was one bill that passed. Altogether, there were about 12. Others that passed extend a whole bunch of tax increment finance districts. There was actually some pushback from Republicans saying that they're seeing too many TIF districts that leads to a lack of resources going to schools whenever you set up a different pot of money for these TIFs to have increased assessment and increased property taxes going to the TIF rather than going to the school district. But the TIF is used to help invest in revitalizing certain areas. So we're seeing an omnibus of extending a lot of TIF districts. There were also measures about making sure that property is where it needs to go into the right hands for rail consolidation and high-speed rail that we see here in Illinois. That's another measure that passed. So they altogether they had about a dozen bills that passed, from the EV tax credits to changes to the Safety Act, but also this one, which is getting some attention, and it deals with prisons, and in particular people who menstruate in prisons. And that's what the bill's sponsor said ultimately this is for. And here's how the debate went on the Senate floor Thursday with State Senator Selena Villanueva talking about her measure to allow for these menstrual products and underwear to be given for free to people who menstruate in Illinois prisons.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill, House Bill 4218, hopes to address the lack of hygiene products available for those in the Department of Corrections care who lack the financial means to purchase these basic necessities. As of January 2022 of this year, the Department of Corrections has provided these products to female inmates, products being tampons and sanitary napkins. House Bill 4218 just codifies it and includes everyone access to these products. This bill passed unanimously from the House, and I ask for an aye vote.
Is there any discussion? Senator Bryant.
Senator Terry Bryant.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Murfreesboro,
Question
Republican.
of the sponsor, please.
She indicates she will yield. Senator Bryant.
I think I heard you say that you are codifying something that is already being done. Why do we need it in statute?
Senator Villanueva.
Because departments in the state of Illinois tend to change depending on the leadership, because obviously with different governors, leadership tends to move on. We just want to make sure that this practice is in statute and protects the basic dignity of people who menstruate and have access to tampons, sanitary napkins, and underwears during the menstrual periods.
Senator Bryant.
So I don't want to beat it to death, but is it honestly, I'm not trying to make a joke about this. Underwear for women only or for men and women?
Senator Villanueva.
Pretty sure that it's for those who menstruate.
Senator Bryant.
Okay, thank you.
So, the question there, I think, is an interesting one, and maybe Senator Bryant didn't go as far as maybe she was looking to make the point of people who menstruate. Men do not menstruate. So are men who claim to be women going to be able to get these free products, or is it just women, just people who are born women? And that's a question that obviously is pretty contentious and something I don't think we've heard the last of quite yet, especially when it comes to individuals in the Department of Corrections.